Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to be here and see so many interested faces here. I'm going to talk about the energy transition, what it means for the Nordic power system, and then I will zoom into Finland, what we have been doing here, what has been the key success factors for us, what are the challenges, and how we move on together. If we talk about the energy transition and try to define what we actually mean with that, then it's sort of changing the way we produce the electricity and energy at large, and with that we are already actually quite far in the Nordic countries. But it's also much about how we consume the energy, and that's not only a technical thing, like it was already mentioned, it's very much also a societal thing. And on that side, there's plenty to do still, even here in the Nordic countries. I have the traditional energy dilemma triangle there on the slides, and if we think about the sort of the main motivator or the first motivator for the energy transition, it was definitely the sustainability. And it's obviously still key element. But while doing this, we also have to maintain the competitiveness. And during the recent years, it has become even more evident that we need to put more focus on the competitiveness. EU is struggling at large. We are losing for US and China, and there's a really harsh competition, and this is of course something that is also on the agenda of the new commission very much. And then we always we cannot forget the energy security. That's evident. Europe was quite dependable on imported fossil fuels, and we all know what happened a few years ago. I think now we are past on that crisis, but the energy or the geopolitics around us are still in very difficult situation, and more and more focus has to be put on the energy security. Luckily, we here in the Nordics are in a good situation in that respect, that with the renewable energy we can actually achieve all these three angles. It can be sustainable, especially onshore wind here in the Nordics is very competitive, and while doing this we are producing more energy by ourselves and replacing the mostly imported fossil fuel. So I think we are on the right track, but there's still plenty to do. In short, if you really want to put this in short, what is energy transition, it's very much about the electrification. And sort of the equation is that you should electrify everything you can. You can do it directly then typically it's the most efficient way to do it. In the for example, in the traffic sector, we have done that. In Norway, you are already very far, and we here in Finland are coming behind. But then there's some sectors where the electrification is quite difficult to do it directly. Then we have to do it indirectly, and in practice, that often means that we produce green hydrogen with the electricity, and then sort of indirectly electrify processes in the industrial sector mainly. Here's a recent study that was made by the Nordic transmission system operators, Fingrid among them, and you can see that the estimation is that Nordic electricity consumption is to double already by 2040. There is some growth coming from the traffic sector and also from the heating sector, but most of the growth is expected to come from the industrial side, where we still have a lot to do, and especially if we want to be a sort of attractive region for the new industrial investments, then there's a lot of a potential. All in all, this means that the societies are to become even more reliant on secure, but also from competitive and reliable power system. And where all this electricity is coming from, it's basically wind and solar, and especially wind here in the Nordic countries. These are competitive technologies, they are scalable technologies, but at the same time, they are weather dependent and they are variable. So it means that we also have to learn new ways how to utilize this variable production. We need to find more flexibility to the system. We need to be better in storing energy, and maybe we also need some production that is some new production that is sort of more weatherproof to support the system. But it's very clear that in the near future, for the next 10-15 years, the growth of the electricity consumption has to be met with the solar and wind. There is really no other alternatives in short term. And then we are coming to the field of the transmission system operators. So typically the renewable energy sources are located in the areas with less people, and then the electricity and energy consumption at large is typically located in where the people are living. So in the Nordics, that means that in south. And for the grid, that's a challenge to move this green power from the northern parts of the Nordic countries to the southern parts of the Nordic countries. And Nordic TSOs have estimated that during the next 10 years, by 2035, the Nordic power grid will require roughly 30 billion euro investments to make this happen. This is both the internal grid, especially in the north-south direction, but also the interconnectors between the countries. Just about less than a month ago, we finalized new interconnector together with our Swedish counterparts called Aurora Line. That was actually completed ahead of schedule, and that was great success story. It's a interconnector that has been planned at least from the 90s, and now just a few weeks ago it was finally completed. That's a key enabler for the power consumption growth in the north. There's a lot of industrial activities both in the northern Sweden and northern Finland, but it's also very crucial for security of supply here in Finland. At the same time, while we are building more and more grid, we need to learn how to use the grid more efficiently. So we have to make sure that whatever we build will be utilized to its maximum potential. And there we are investigating a lot of new and smart solutions. For example, flexible grid connections, dynamic line rating, and technologies like that. But all in all, it's very clear that this energy transition that we are talking about, it's not going to happen without significant investments to the grid. And obviously, that's something that requires support from the public and landowners at large. Then if we zoom bit to Finland, what has happened here? And I don't think all the Finns really understand how big the change has been in the last 5-6 years. The electricity production CO2 emissions in Finland has collapsed. Total power production that we have in this country has increased roughly by 20 terawatt hours. Finland used to import 20, sometimes even 25% of the electricity that we consumed here from other Nordic countries and also from Russia. And that has changed quite a bit now. Of course, all the imports from Russia, both electricity and gas, They were stopped in May 22. But because the fact that we are now producing on annual level roughly the same that we are consuming, also the imports from Nordic countries have decreased quite a bit. And the main enablers for this has been the wind power investments, and also, of course, Olkiluoto 3, one of the world's largest nuclear power units, has been completed. At the same time, electricity production from the fossil fuels has decreased, not only here in Lahti, but in the whole country. And what is very important for the competitiveness is that the power price is now back on the level it used to be before the energy crisis. And that's a major thing, because basically all over or any other places in the Europe, the power prices have increased quite a bit. Finland has had, for the 2 past years, we have been number 3 when it comes to the cheapest power price in the Europe. And I think, let's see if I'm right, but we are very close to be the number 1 this year, so having the lowest power price in the EU this year. But it's going to be a tough competition with Norway and Sweden, of course. Then if we check a bit the power grid side, what needs to be done and what has been done. In the past 5 years, if we compare 2020 to today, Fingrid has roughly 4 times larger investment program than we had 2020. So in the coming 10 years, Fingrid is going to invest 5.2 billion euros to Finnish grid. And also here on the map, you're going to see a lot of green power lines, which are the sort of the north-south investments that we are working on. Then we are also working on with new interconnectors with the neighboring countries. We have 2 interconnector projects with our Swedish counterpart. And then we are also working with the Estonians to build yet another Estlink to the Baltic countries. And these 3 projects, Aurora Line, Fennoskan 3 and Estlink 3, they were awarded European PCI status earlier this week. PCI stands for Project of Common Interest, and it means that they are not only relevant for Finland or this region, but they have their European relevance as well. The challenge with the grid planning nowadays is the uncertainty, since there's so much activities in this country. There's a lot of especially data center projects, but also other industrial projects, and finding out which of those will actually materialize in the concrete investments. It's a major challenge for the grid planning. It takes 7 to 8 years to build a grid, but this industrial investment timeline might be considerably shorter. So how to tackle this is something that we are working every day. One success factor that we see here is that the importance of the grid is very well recognized by the municipalities and local authorities or regional authorities. The grid is often seen as a competitiveness factor for the region and not the other way around. So that's something that we are very happy for. Then when it comes to the other success factors, the first one is a bit funny, that we are a fairly large country. Finland is roughly same size as Germany, but we are only 5.5 million people here. Finland is actually the most sparsely populated EU country. So that's a good thing when it comes to the renewable energy build out and grid build out. So there's a lot of space. Another key thing has been the fact that the power plant's property tax stays in the local municipality. That has clearly increase the support for the renewable energy. I think Anni will probably talk about more about this. Then what we are doing a lot is a close cooperation with landowners when we are building a new grid. Always we cannot adapt the plans according to the wishes of the landowners, but whenever we can, we try to do it and find the best possible solution. And then finally, most of the energy transition in this country has been driven by the markets. We have done very stable energy policy and we have had ambitious targets, but we have let the market work and choose the winners. There were subsidies for the renewables in the beginning, but most of the 9 gigawatt of wind capacity that we have today has been built by private companies driven by the market signals, and that's something that we should cherish also in the future, because that's the way to secure and make sure that the best investments, the most competitive investments win in this game. Then a few challenges. Permitting. Finns always like to complain about permitting, but at large, permitting has been fairly quick in this country compared to many other European countries. Now in the recent years we have had more and more delays in that. I think it's mostly a question of permitting resources. For example, in our case, back in the days we used to get expropriation permits in roughly 6 months, and today it's on average 2 years that the permitting process takes, and if a building a power line, it's that 7-8 years. It's already quite big chunk that is kind of spent in the permitting phase. Then of course higher volumes brings higher impact and more resistance. That's something that we see for sure, but then with this good cooperation with the landowners and local communities, I think we can manage and also sort of adapt always when possible. And then lastly, I bit want to comment the dialogue that the Finnish media has had in the basically this year regarding the data centers. Sometimes you get the feeling that are we really ready for the growth and new power intensive investments. There has been a lot of a dialogue whether the data centers are good or bad for the society, and will they only increase the power prices in this country, and to me it feels bit weird, to be honest, and the same goes basically for all the power intensive investments. If we're going to have this same discussion also with the hydrogen or some other investments, I don't think we're gonna go far. We are in this country. We are in a great position in that sense that if there's a new demand, which is obviously a factor that increases power prices, there's a lot of a potential to build new power production to this country, which then keep the prices down. So let's see where the discussion there ends, but it's been quite challenging to follow it sometimes. And then maybe the largest challenge that we are now facing in a way, or the most critical challenge, is the geopolitics. Here are some pictures from a case that Finns, I guess, know quite well, but for others this is cable between Finland and Estonia that got damaged on Christmas Day last year, and it was damaged by anchor. You can see it in the picture of a vessel that was part of a Russian shadow fleet, and there's the Finnish coastal guards boarding on the ship on the Christmas night, and this was of course a major incident also for us. It took about 6 months to repair this cable, cost 55 million euro. And now we are, of course, as a company thinking very much how to protect our infrastructure better, how to practice for different kind of scenarios, what kind of spare parts, for example, are needed. One key thing has been the NATO here. So NATO increased their presence on the Baltic Sea after this incident, and somehow after that the anchors have stayed up. I don't know if there's a relation. Okay, but to summarize briefly, to maintain the existing industry and especially to enable further growth of industrial production, whether it's data centers or more traditional industry, it's clear that the Nordics and the EU at large will require a lot of green power in the coming decades. We here in the Nordic countries, we are probably in the best position in the whole world to succeed in this. There's a great foundation and we can build on that. The interconnected Nordic grid is a key, and it needs more investments, but we are fully committed to make this happen. And if we think about this transition in the Nordic countries, the interconnected grid and the fact that we are doing this together makes it possible to make it faster and less costly and be more competitive. Thank you. I stop there.
I'm not letting you go
Okay.
yet. Thank you, Mikko. Julia, do you have questions from the system?
From the system, I guess the audience, yes. I do actually. We have quite a few, but I'm going to start with a question. How can we ensure electricity remains affordable in 2050 if its use in Finland doubles, considering consumers' opinions on price and anticipated increases?
The short answer to that is to make sure that it's possible to build more power production in this country and also in the Nordic countries. Also, the grid needs focus, of course, like I explained, but I think the key factor is the competitive power production. So there has to be possibilities for that, support for that, and it has to be driven by the market signals.
Thank you. And I'll continue. We have a few
go
more.
ahead. Yep.
And this is from Anders from Simpower. How is Fingrid working with the other Nordic TSOs and NRAs to co-plan improved utilization of the Nordic power grid?
I think major change was the introduction of flow-based capacity calculation last autumn. I know that it has been debated, especially in Sweden, quite much. It's more difficult to understand as our previous system, but after the implementation of the flow-based calculation, the utilization rate, especially the interconnectors between the countries, has been actually quite much higher than it used to be. So that was great achievement. Surely there is still work to do and we can make it even better, but that was one thing. Then we also do plenty of this kind of a learning from each other, sharing the best practices and so on. For example, this dynamic line rating that I mentioned that's a way how to consider the weather actually when sort of overloading the grid. That's one field where we are working quite closely together. And also the ancillary service markets, they are joined in Nordics and there's a lot of benefits from reserve sharing and just having the trade between the countries.
Very good. Thank you.
If you still have, I'm
I do.
giving you a few more minutes. Yep.
Yeah, well, it's alive and kicking, this
Oh, good.
Q&A.
I'm happy.
So moving on to the third one. Is Fingrid considering offshore wind in a hybrid grid?
We as a company, if I say it very directly, we are not considering this kind of a hybrid grid. Let's see when we proceed with the Fennoskan 3 interconnector. There could be a potential, but that's still quite far in the future. Right now, I think it's quite difficult to see the large-scale offshore wind projects, especially here in Finland, since there's no subsidies for them, and the market price is lowest in the EU. Let's see. Maybe in 2030s.
Thank you. One more at least,
Yeah,
I
sure.
think. Yeah,
Go ahead.
good. So how is Fingrid dealing with a significant number of connection requests? Has the rate slowed down on the supply-demand side?
Yeah, we have more than 70 gigawatt of grid connection inquiries from the demand side. That's roughly 400 terawatt hours of power consumption. So there's a lot of activities, and especially data centers are right now very active. Roughly half of that number is from data centers. And there, like I bit explained in the presentation, the main challenge is the uncertainty. You never know which of those projects will actually move forward and get the actual investment decision. So far, we have been using more or less first come, first served type of principle. In the recent years, we have also implemented ways so that the investors can secure the grid capacity earlier in the process, and that's especially for the large projects something that has helped them to go forward and secure the funding, for example. We try to have this very close dialogue with the connecting parties, and in some cases the investments can be a bit sort of steered. So right now we are in the situation that here in the southern Finland it's a bit tight with the grid capacity, especially for the new demand. But then in the northern part of the country there's plenty of grid capacity. Right now we are investing these north-south power lines, and the situation in the south will start to improve in very close time. But especially when it comes, for example, batteries, which are not, for the business case of battery, it's not so relevant whether they are located here in the south or whether they are bit in the north. That's something that we have been also doing, that sort of try to steer connection requests to the places where there is more capacity in the grid.
Very
One
good,
more?
thank you. I think so.
Go ahead.
We do have time, if you're okay with that, Mikko.
Yep. Oh, I asked for him. I was like, yes, he is.
Yes, sure, go ahead. So, to what extent do you in Finland see public resistance to wind and solar? And if yes, is this halting the implementation?
I will leave that to Anni, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's a smart one. Take it for the next presentation. Okay. Well, we have additional questions. Maybe one more, I think. What can be the role of energy communities, especially in eastern Finland and border regions?
It depends what we actually mean with the energy community. But if it's more like understand in a way that the community is something that there's a collection of individual, whether they are people or companies, and they together, for example, invest in the local production. I think that can be a role, but maybe not in the whole country, not only in the eastern Finland. Why not? We also talk about these hydrogen valleys, for example, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of activities happening on that side as well.
Thank you. Well, we have about 10 more questions here. I'm sure we don't have time for that.
Unfortunately not.
But maybe one more, I think, would be a nice way to...
You love your role, go ahead, ask more questions.
You can go and have a cup of coffee, that's
Exactly.
fine. Let's see here. We've covered that a bit.
And by the way, thank you, audience. You're being really active. Thank you.
And this is a bit similar to the previous question in terms of public resistance, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you see public resistance being a problem for the Nordic Energy Cooperation?
I wouldn't say public resistance, maybe not so much, but this sort of we have seen in the Nordic countries, and I think it's a European phenomenon that everyone is now looking more in the national interests or short-term national interest, and I think it's very clear that we as a Nordic countries or any European country is quite small to compete with US or China or so on. So the only way we can actually manage and solve this in a long run is the cooperation on the regional and further European level. So yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. I'm happy. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you.